you everyone for joining us tonight to talk about supervision and to see whether we can actually have an online discussion. And let's hopefully the answer to that question is yes. Okay. So, Rich, the value of supervision.
Sure.
Where should we start?
What do you look for when you look for a supervisor? What are your values?
Yeah. So
supervisee.
Yeah. So I could say something about my values as a supervisee. Okay. I mean, I think I'm looking for a space that's open, a space where I can talk about my clients, and I guess where I can primarily talk about myself. And I think I'm looking for supervision then that is really centred on me-centred.
Sure. What you're saying, like supervisee-centred?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah. So that might be slightly different from what I was looking for when I begun my training, that maybe I was needing and wanting to talk lots about my clients. But I guess what I'm looking for now is a place where I can think about my process.
So processing your own process with your clients in supervision.
Yeah, absolutely.
So supervisee-centred, you say?
Supervising-centred, yes.
And I guess as a supervisor myself, that's what I try to offer to supervisees. Is about the supervisee is the centre of the work that I do.
Yeah.
Their client work is there too, but mainly it's around how it is for them and how they want supervision to be, and really just opening it up to them. I want them to, in a way, control the supervision at some point. So they can come and they can ask me what they need, what they want, and hopefully offer that to the supervisee.
Yeah. Yeah, so what you're saying, Rich, is what you want to offer as a supervisor is what the supervisee needs. You're going to ask them, what do you want as a supervisee?
What do they need to get from supervision to help them and support them? And what do they need from it? Not about my own agenda as a supervisor, but how they want it to be to them.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay. So I guess what we're starting off is Rich and I are talking about a kind of supervision that's really about the counsellor's process and the place to think about that. Is there any comments about that in the chat room? Anything that anybody would want to say about that? Now we know there's a slight delay between the broadcast going out and the chat room. So Christy, the supervision that you offer is, all right, okay, we've got a comment from you again, Christy. It's about being with the supervisee wherever they happen to be at that time.
Yep.
And another comment from Helen. I'd say yes, that supervisees begin by talking about clients, but then grow into talking about themselves. Is that a process that you would recognise with your supervisees, Rich?
If they choose to do that.
Yeah, okay.
And I guess it is, they can do that either way around. They can start talking about themselves and how their client work's going and how it's affecting them. The supervision for me is like the whole big picture. It's not all about the client.
Yeah.
It is about the supervisee as well. What's best to do to help and support them doing their counselling work. So that's where that comes from. It's a good comment.
Yeah.
Which way round is it?
And Helen G, are you talking about supervisees at the beginning of their training that are very focused on their clients? Or are you talking about the start of a session? Okay, yeah. So maybe as we start our counselling career, maybe we're less experienced, we are quite focused on our client work at the beginning of training. I mean, I think that would be my experience, that when I was going to supervision and I was on the course, and for a while after the course, I guess I was quite, what should I say to this client, or how might I respond to this client, or I feel a bit out of my depth.
And I think as at the beginning of a counselling career, it's for me anyway, I was really inquisitive to what's this happening with the client, and why is this happening, what's going on, and the client's saying this and I'm really stuck into and then looking at my own process as time's moved on, to what the stuff this is about, what part do I play in that as well? Because I'm there in that room, I play a part in that counselling and supervisor and also counsellor client. So there is that crossover.
Yeah, so that's a really helpful comment, Helen. Thank you. And it sounds like you're saying something about how you might help trainee counsellors to loosen up that process, Rich, and help them to think about their process. Which, Christy, you're saying what interests me now is my own process and the therapeutic relationship. Okay. Yeah. Okay. Well, let's come back to that, because Helen's making another comment about at the beginning of the training, which is really interesting, that trainee counsellors are perhaps shy to talk about how their client makes them feel. I think that's a really thoughtful comment about how I'm thinking about at the start of my own training, how I might have felt. It's harder to show my own process, perhaps I might not even know.
And I'm wondering as well how the trainee is taught supervision. Because on the course they say this is supervision, this is how it is, and maybe they take that from the training into their counselling career. And does their training make them shy to talk about it? So if they're training, they were told to use supervision in a different way. So I think a lot of it comes from the way that they're training it. I know from my own training, when I first started out and having supervision, I didn't know how to use it. I just thought I went there and said, these are my clients, this is what's happening.
Yeah.
And I guess that's how I saw it, but over time, it's changed.
Yeah.
And now, 7, 8 years into counselling career, the way I use my supervision is different to how I first used it.
Yeah.
And it might be different in another 3 years' time or a year's time.
Yeah. Okay, Christy, you make the comment about training, that I think a lot of the time trainee counsellors are just left to get on with it and not taught about it at all. So is there something that might be useful for someone who's training as a counsellor to be taught or shown